What have you choose? Moose here. Now, here is my throwback segment where I talk about the films turning 10, 20, and 30 this week. Alright, the films celebrating their 10th anniversary, we got Captain America, the Winter Soldier. Of course, this was a follow-up to 2011's Captain America, the First Avenger. And of course, we will go ahead and get, the third one, about 2 years after. Now, this was actually the first MCU movie directed by the Russo brothers, who will obviously go on to direct Civil War and the final two Avengers films. Now, if you guys don't know much about the story with this one, Captain America joins forces with Black Widow and Falcon to uncover a conspiracy within the spy agency SHIELD while facing a mysterious assassin known as the Winter Soldier. Of course, Bucky Barnes, played by Sebastian Stan. And this was also the first introduction to Anthony Mackie's Falcons. Obviously, he will go on to now be our new Captain America because we do got Brave New World next year. And this was also, even at the end, a little spoiler by the way. At the end credits, it also introduces us to Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch, who obviously played bigger roles in Civil War and Age of Ultron. And I gotta say, I really enjoyed Captain America: Winter Soldier. Of course, you had Robert Redford in this. I mean, I love the espionage type story here. It was really entertaining and all. Of course, Sebastian Stan was great in this. Frank Grillo. Sorry about that. What not to love about this one? The action is just as great. Of course, I believe this was actually the second phase, if I'm not mistaken, of the MCU. And they did a great job with this. I mean, of course, now people, now we know with the MCU nowadays, maybe it isn't as good as it used to be. Because back then, it was like an event after event after event with the MCU. But now, I didn't mind the Marvels and other stuff, it's just, okay, they were just fine and all. But yeah, Winter Soldier is hands down a really great one. Like, it's not even in my top 10 favorite of the MCU films or anything like that. But it's still a really good one. I mean, this really had like the bit of the Tom Clancy feel to it, and so seeing Robert Redford popping up in this was really fun too. So yeah, really decent follow there. Also turning 10, we got Under the Skin. Now, this was the last movie directed by Jonathan Glazer before he of course won his Oscar for Zone of Interest. Now, this movie stars Scarlett Johansson, and Glazer pretty much developed Under the Skin for over a decade, and the story focuses on an alien perspective on the human world. Most of the cast had no acting experience outside of Scarlett Johansson here. I mean, Scarlett Johansson, let's just say, really showed her strength in this here. But that aside, Scarlett Johansson was great. This movie is just, I love A24. I'll always watch an A24 movie. But if I have to say, was some of their worst films they put out, Under the Skin's definitely up there. This movie is, I'm sorry, I know it has its fans and everything. Under the Skin is terrible. I'm sorry, definitely. If I was to do like my top worst A24 movies, this will definitely be on the top tier list. I remember watching this one in theaters. I'm like, what the heck's going on here? I mean, you got like this guy, these guys who are just going into this in this like shadow realm like thing, and Scarlett Johansson's just like tearing them down. I'm like, okay, cool. Scarlett Johansson look great in this, obviously. I mean, less close on Scarlett Johansson, that's always given. But other than that, yeah, it's just it's awful. It's a terrible one. So yeah, definitely not H24's best work. All right, also now turning 20 this week, we got Hellboy. Now, of course, this is the another comic book film on my list, by the way. Now, Hellboy, of course, is based on the Dark Horse character created by Mike Mignola. This was, of course, directed by Guillermo del Toro and starred Ron Perlman. And it's where like a charismatic demon turned investigator named Hellboy works with a secretive Baru paranormal research and defense to suppress paranormal threats. But a resurrect sorcerer seeks to make Hellboy fulfill his destiny by triggering the apocalypse. And the first Hellboy is terrific. Of course, Guillermo del Toro, Selma Blair, Ron Perlman was great in this. Doug Jones was also in this. I mean, the first Hellboy is a really big one. Of course, the first Hellboy came out around a time when like the comic book genre was still trying to find its core. Obviously at the time there was Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man, X-Men, and so it was like Hellboy's turn for the should be the next major comic book property. And it's a really decent one. The action's pretty cool. Ron Perlman was born to play Hellboy. Of course, he will go on to play Hellboy again in the sequel. Still holding out hope for a third one with Ron Perlman, but we do got a new reboot coming out this year. So, yeah, of course, the last Hellboy we had, the one with David Harbour, who one of the worst things I've seen in the recent years. But this Hellboy is a really great one. So, yeah. Anyway, also turning 20, we got Walking Tall. Now, this is actually a remake of a 1973 film of the same name and stars Dwayne Johnson, who at the time was credited as The Rock, and Johnny Knoxville. The film revolves around a discharged U.S. Army soldier who returns to his hometown only to become the town's sheriff when he finds that the town is laced with hideous crimes and corruption. Now, of course, this was around a time where like Dwayne Johnson, or at the time, was known as The Rock, was really trying to find his foot into the acting world. Obviously he mostly came on the scene as a wrestler, but in the acting world, he mostly came on the scene with stuff like The Scorpion King, Mummy Returns. He had The Rundown at the time too, and this is actually a really fun one. Like, it's not my favorite film that he's put out or anything, but it is a really entertaining one. His chemistry with Johnny Knoxville's great. The action's pretty fun. I believe Neil McDonald's also in this. He's always cool to see pop up. This is a really entertaining one if you guys ever seen that. All right, also turning 20, we got Home on the Range, which is a Disney animated film, which I like Disney animated stuff, but if I had to say one of like my least favorite animated movies out of Disney's lineup, this is probably it. I mean, it has an interesting voice cast. Like, you had the likes of Roseanne Barr, Jennifer Tilly, Cuba Gooding Jr., Steve Buscemi, Patrick Warburton. Uh, I mean, Jennifer Tilly and Patrick Warburton. You pretty much had Joe and Bonnie from Family Guy both in this together, so that's something there. You also had like Randy Quaid was also in this. And if you guys don't know much about the story here, Home on the Range is set on the Old West and centers on a mismatched trio of dairy cows, brash adventurous Maggie, prime proper Miss Calloway, and Dissy Happy Go Lucky Grace. The three cows must capture an infamous rustler named Amada Slim for his bounty in order to save the idyllic farm from foreclosure here. And yeah, I mean, I remember watching this one back in early 2000s. That one that never really stuck out to me. It's definitely not up there with the likes of like early 2000s Disney's was pretty cool. Like, obviously Lilo and Stitch was a great one. Obviously, Wall-E, Boat, and stuff. This is I'm even a defender of Chicken Little, to be honest here. I prefer Chicken Little over this, to be honest. But yeah, this, if I had to say which like is my least favorite film out of like Disney animation lineup, this is definitely one of them. Yeah, never really found this movie to be all that funny. Even like when I was in middle school and stuff, I never found this thing to be funny. And it's good voice cast, just wasn't all that great. And I believe it actually flopped too. So, oof, yeah. All right. Also, 2020, we got The Prince and Me. Now, this is, of course, directed by Marta Coolidge, who is best known for directing the original Valley Girl. You also got the likes of Julia Stiles, Miranda Richardson, James Fox, Luke Melby, Ben Miller, and it focuses on Paige Martin, a pre-med college student in Wisconsin, who is pursued by a dangerous prince posing as an ordinary college student. The film had three direct sequels here, and the first film is actually pretty decent. Like Julie Stiles, of course, at the time was really branching her own into the acting world with stuff like Save the Last Dance, obviously, 10 Things I Hate About You. Julie Stiles is always terrific, and she was actually pretty charming in this. Like her chemistry with the lead actor Luke Mably was pretty decent. Miranda Richards is always great. It's a really decent little charming film worth checking out. All right. Also turning 20, we got The United States of Leland. Now, this was directed by Matthew Ryan Hodge and follows a meek teenage boy, the eponymous Leland, who is inexplicably committed to a shocking murder. And in the wake of the killing, his teacher in prison tries to understand the senseless crime, while the families of the victims and perpetrator struggles to cope with the aftermath. Now, you had a really good cast here, too. You had the likes of Ryan Gosling, Don Cheadle, Chris Klein, uh, Lena Olin, Kevin Spacey, Michelle Williams, Mark Donovan, Michael Pena was also in this. Of course, this was actually one of like Ryan Gosling's earliest films. Of course, he was trying to get into the act, like make a name for himself. Of course, at the same year, he also did The Notebook. So, Ryan Gosling is probably more famous now than he ever been back then. Because thanks to like him as Ken and Barbie, and he was actually really solid in this. Like, he definitely like this movie gets really intense at times, but the performances by Don Cheadle, maybe one of Chris Klein's best non-American Pie performances. He was pretty decent in this. It's a really decent little film if you guys ever seen that. All right, also turning 20, we got Shaolin Soccer, which is directed by Stephen Chow, who you might know from Kung Fu Hustle fame. And this is, of course, a soccer film that revolves around a former Shaolin monk who reunites with his five brothers years after their master's death to apply their superhuman martial arts skills to play soccer and bring Shaolin Kung Fu to the masses. So, of course, this is part Kung Fu, this is part soccer film. Stephen Chow doesn't really do anything as much anymore. Like, there was still talks about a Kung Fu Hustle sequel, but that was like years ago. I don't know if that's still ever happening. But this is a really decent film worth checking out with performances by Stephen Chow. Uh, there were other good players in this too. Stephen Chow's, like I always say he like would have became I don't know the next Bruce Lee or Jackie Chan, but he hasn't really branched out there. Like he did Kung Fu Hustle and everything, but you don't really see Stephen Chow Hall anymore. So it's a shame because I've always thought he was a good mixed martial arts, and yeah, I hope we do get another Kung Fu Hustle down the line. But we'll see. All right. Now, films turning 30 this week. Not the first film, but its sequel, and that is Major League 2. Of course, the follow-up to maybe one of the best baseball movies there is, Major League, which of course had Charlie Sheen. Now this film, stars like Tom Berenger, Dennis Haysbert, Omar Epps, Jay Leno of all people. Also, Randy Quaid got a couple of Randy Quaid stuff in there. Jesse Ventura. Now in it, it's where a selfish superstar catcher who is looking to replace the aging Jake Tyler, played by Tom Berenger, as his starter. Takai Yashibari, a Japanese comedic duo Tunnels, is outer fielder. Yuzuru Kazuma's, I can never pronounce the name too well, who helps excite the team. Eric Brochkotter is of course rookie catcher Ruby Baker, who is getting used to the MLB life. Unlike the first film, which was rated R, Major League 2 was rated PG. Now the original Major League is always great. Who doesn't love the original Major League? Of course, Charlie Sheen at the height of his career and all. I believe young Wesley Snipes was in the original, if I'm not mistaken. This I believe they also did another one as well. I believe there was like two other sequels or something like that. But Major League 2, yeah, definitely a bit of step down. I mean, whenever they do these like sports sequels, it doesn't always work. Whether you talk about Caddyshack 2 Benchwarmers 2, Major League 2 is definitely up there. It's not as great as the original. It does not make one. It's definitely horrible. The performances isn't great. Why did they need to do a sequel? Beyond me, but yeah. All right, what's the turning dirty? We got Jimmy Hollywood. Now this stars Joe Pesci and Christian Slater, and it was directed by Rayman director Barry Levinson. It's where Jimmy Alto is a failing actor in LA after increasingly frustrated with his career going nowhere and with the crime in the city. Jimmy, along with his spaced out best friend William, decides to take the law into his own hands. That's not like Joe Pesci's best work. It's nowhere near as good as, let's say, Goodfellas, My Cousin Vinny, obviously Home Alone, or anything like that. But Joe Pesci is still pretty good in this. His chemistry with Christian Slater is pretty fine. Definitely really showcases the Hollywood lifestyle really well. It is a really fun little comedy if you guys haven't seen it. All right, also turning 30, we got Cronos. Speaking of Guillermo del Toro, by the way. This was actually, I believe this was actually his first feature, if I'm not mistaken. And it's where like a mysterious device that destined to provide its owner with eternal life resurfaces over 400 years, leaving a trail of destruction in its path. And of course, you had like Ron Perlman was also in this. I mean, it's not like Guillermo del Toro's best work, but it is a really it really showcase of how great of a filmmaker he always been. He's of course been doing movies like since the early '90s. He of course did the movie Mimic. Remember Mimic? So yeah, this is a really creepy like folk based horror film we're checking out. So yeah, not as good as Hellboy. Obviously, Hellboy is probably his best work, but Cronos is a really decent one there too. All right. Also turning 30, we got Thumbelina. Now, this was directed by animation mastermind Don Bluth, who of course gave us stuff like Land Before Time and American Tail. Don Bluth is maybe one of the top tier best animated directors of all time. The voice talents in this also includes the likes of Ariel herself, Jodie Benson, Gilbert Gottfried, Carol Channing, John Hurt. Now, of course, Thumbelina is based on the iconic fairy tale of the same name. We're like born of a flower and growing to only a couple of inches tall. Poor Thumbelina, voiced by Jodie Benson, is worried she'll never meet someone her own size until she happens to catch the eye of Prince Cornelius of the fairies. Just as soon she finds love, however, it's torn away from her when she is kidnapped by Mr. Toad. Uh, Now Thumbelina has to escape Mr. Toad's grasp and search for Prince Cornus. Luckily, there's a whole city of animals willing to help her. Here. And it's not like Don Bluth's best work. My favorite film of his will obviously always be Land Before Time. I believe he did an Orthodox Go Heaven too, if I'm not mistaken. He's definitely put out some really great classic stuff. And this is a really decent, charming one. The animation is pretty cool. I mean, early '90s had some hit and miss with their animation, and this is a really decent one. I mean, it's not like my favorite anime film of all time. Like, it's nowhere near as good as, let's say, like The Lion King or Toy Story or anything like that. But it's a really decent story worth checking out. I mean, if you guys never seen any of Don Bluth's stuff, whether it's an American Tail, Land Before Time, do yourself a favor, go watch some of Don Bluth's films. I mean, his movies has always been so iconic. All right, also turning 30, we got the film Clifford. Not to be confused with Clifford the Big Red Dog, just so you know. This movie, of course, stars Mona Short, Ben Savage, of course, coming off of Boy Meets World fame, Timothy Stack, Richard Kind, Mary Steenburgen, Charles Grodin, Dabney Coleman. And if you guys don't know much about the story here, it tells the story of a 10-year-old boy who stays with his uncle while his parents are on a business trip in Honolulu. And to be honest, this is definitely one of the worst comedies I've ever seen. I remember watching this on TV like years ago. Yeah, I love Martin Short. Like, he's always who doesn't love Martin Short? Only Murders in the Building, Father the Bride. Martin Short's always great. The Three Amigos. this is definitely one of his worst starring vehicles. Like maybe not as bad as Captain Ron, but definitely not that good of a film there. So yeah. All right. Last but not least, turning 30, we got The House of the Spirits, which was directed by Billy August and starred the likes of Jeremy Irons, Meryl Streep, Glenn Close, Winona Ryder, Antonio Banderas. And it is based on a novel of the same name and follows three-generation women from the Cillian family during the country's military dictatorship. And this is a really decent little one. Of course, Billy August did a really good job directing. Great cast from Jeremy Irons, Meryl Streep, Glenn Close is great in this. Um, I believe this actually scored a couple of Oscars, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong there. But I mean, Meryl Streep, obviously, Oscar glory right there. But yeah, I mean, it's a little depressing at times. It gets a little slow, but not a bad little film if you guys haven't seen it. But that's pretty much it there. Let me ask you guys, which of these films stand out to you the most? To me, the 10-year one is obviously going to go to Captain America, the Winter Soldier. The 20-year one, I'm going to go with Hellboy. And the 30-year one, I'm actually going to go with Thumbalina. You know, you can't go wrong with Don Blue. Anyway, drop comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that bell for notification. This is Simon signing out.